way to win, but either way, Sea King, and that's a big pot there. Big difference. Instead of Liberace with 35 million chips, suddenly he comes back to the pack, Sea King with nearly 14 million.
And AJ asks the question, you running okay over there? Liberace still with the better part of 23 million in chips, though. Still with a phenomenal chip lead. And Sea King acknowledging that he has been running hot.
Well, you've got to realize, all these players have played very well, and they put themselves in a position to get lucky. I would find it very difficult, and I'm curious what these players would say, but my bet would be that all these players will say, yes, I ran well. To get through over 2,200 players, 2,185 players, to get to this final five here, all in here, Sea King with the ace-10, he's ahead. Big flop, though, for AJK Hoosier.
He's in his flush.
Yep, there you go. It's over. AJK still in there with just over 3.4 million chips. Big flop for AJK. Look at that. Hits a second pair with the flush draw. Could have caught a king, a queen, or a spade.
And funnily enough, they're still talking about the hand, where he hit the ace on the river, the ace-jack against the kings, and Liberace saying it would have been worse. It would have felt worse somehow if a 7 had come. That would have been a worse way to lose.
There's no doubt. I mean, if the 7 comes, it's just like, oh no, I couldn't have lost that way, could I? Get a raise here from Shoes Are Dirty, a re-raise from Marcouche. But like I was saying here, when you make it this far, and you get through that many opponents, that many landmines, wow. Man, I can't get a word in because every single pot is a monster.
Raise, re-raise, another re-raise. Marcouche requesting time again. He's committed 1.4 million. The re-raise is to 3.3, and Liberace's going to take that pot down up to 25 million in chips now. Whew.
Okay, I'm going to finish this thought with everyone. So not all these players had to have run good. They all won their coin flips. They all had to, and that's how you do well in a tournament. Obviously, you put yourself in a position to get lucky, and I would imagine all these players would probably admit to that.
Now you know how I felt when I was desperately trying to ask you that question from the emails earlier on, and every time there was an all-in, every time there was a big hand. But hey, that's what we're here for. We're here for the big action at the final table. By the way, if you do want to email us a question, it's pokerstars.tv@gmail.com. We've just had an email from Jani Tossavainen saying, guys, thanks for a great show, great WCOOP, also enjoys EPT Live. I'm a real friend of Sumpus.
We got an all-in here, King, Queen, 7s here. There's a set of 7s. Really good shape for AJK. And look at this. Oh, you can get a chop pot here.
It's gonna be a chop. Gonna be a chop.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Running cards to make the straight. Now, AJK can't be too disappointed.
Look at his reaction.
Yeah, obviously, you're just disappointed after you flop the 7. But if you were to tell him, 7s versus King, Queen, and he's still alive, okay.
Unbelievable. Anyway, to finish that email.
Please do.
Yanni says, I'm a real-life friend of Sumpus here in Sweden and wish him the best of luck. May the cards be with you. Yanni, I hate to be the one to tell you, you're about 5 minutes too late. Sumpus is out.
But you know what? Played pretty well, obviously. He is going to win $415,000 for a 6th place finish. So.
Well, he is complaining at the moment, but he won't when he wakes up in the morning and realises how much money he's made.
And if you are a real-life friend of Sumpus, I would hit him up for some dinner at least. Dinner and drinks on Sumpus.
The meatballs are on Sumpus. Oh, we have seen some very, very strange all-in hands.
Well, AJK is going to, he's fighting, staying alive here. AJK, out of all the players at this final table, and we've been watching it with about 27 left. We picked up the action with 21 left. AJK has probably had the worst luck. We saw him lose with queens to ace king. We saw him lose with queens to pocket 8s, which, he was one of the chip leaders at one point, dropped him down. But he is a fighter, and he is still in there.
Button raise from Sea King, folded by the blinds. And the 5 remaining players have asked to look at the numbers, David.
Oh, I think we're talking, 5 players remaining. We're talking about, 3, 4. We're talking about over $5 million still remaining in this prize pool. So, who knows? Maybe a deal can happen. And obviously, these players are smart enough to realize that anything can happen. Have you noticed this, by the way, that whoever wins this tournament, by the way, will be the lifetime WCOOP cash leader?
Wow, and the top 4 finishers will make the top 8 in WCOOP history. Just so you know what's going on at the moment, Brian, the tournament director, has paused the action, and what he's doing is he's looking at the prize money and reallocating it, that total remaining prize pool, according to where the guys stand in chips at the moment. It's called a chip count chop. He'll give them the numbers, they'll have a think about it. They might discuss it a bit, because invariably there's someone who says, no, I want this, I want that. And basically, if all 5 players agree to it by typing the words, I agree, in the chat box, then a deal is done. If one player out of the 5 doesn't want to do a deal, they will continue playing. It has to be a unanimous decision. A bit like a jury, but without the majority verdict. That was actually a terrible, terrible metaphor, and I apologise for that. Sebastian has emailed us to say, here's a quote I heard sometime, I think it's completely true. In order to win a tournament, your jacks have to beat ace-king, and your ace-king has to beat jacks. You gotta win races, as they say. Well, Dave Tuckman has stepped out of the commentary box for a while. I'm rejoined here on WCOOP Live by Nick Passot. Hello, Nick.
Hi, how you doing?
There was a bit of a frightening moment when it seemed all the Europeans were going one after the other, but we've still got Liberace and Marcouche as the big stacks at the moment. Seeking actually second in chips at the moment with 12.5 million. As the players look at the numbers at the moment, as we say. And it's been going very quickly. Have you been surprised at those fast eliminations?
Could have gone even quicker if a lot of river cards hadn't come out, you know.
Well put.
It's like, I mean, some interesting all-ins. There's a few river cards, but that's poker at the end of the day. I mean, the Kings versus Aces was a pretty sick coup, and you know, there's been some other bits and pieces. That last one where AJK flops a set and makes runner straight for Liberace. I mean, yeah, very entertaining. Which is what we want, you know. We're all here watching it, and for all the listeners as well, you know, do email in.
Yeah, I love that. It's what we want. The players at the table are saying, it's not what we want!
Exactly, yeah. They just want to get it quietly, I suppose, but no, it's been very exciting to watch, and, you know, down to the last 5 players.
Yeah, and if you do want to email us, it's pokerstars.tv@gmail.com. We'll answer any questions you may have. Should point out that in the event of any deal being done, and Brian's going to tell the players that these are very important rules, the bracelet has to be played for. You can't decide who's going to get the bracelet, so whatever happens, even if they do agree to come to some sort of arrangement, we are going to see this tournament played to its conclusion. And a certain percentage of the prize money has to be left on the table as well. There has to be something to play for. 200,000, in fact, Brian confirming. That is the amount that would have to be left aside to be awarded to the champion. That money cannot be part of any deal, and the bracelet goes to the winner as well. So they'll be playing for that WCOOP Main Event Championship bracelet and $200,000. Brian reminding the players that no one is obliged to accept any deal, and of course a chip count chop is only one way of dividing that remaining prize money. So let's have a look at what the numbers are. If they were to agree to a deal, based on the chips they have at the moment, based on that means of dividing the remaining prize money, I guess it's kind of done on a percentage basis.
Brian's doing a pretty quick job, typing in quickly, getting all the numbers worked out. That's good to keep the flow of the game going.
So, if they were to do a deal, Seeking USC would get just over $1 million, 1,065,432 to be precise. Liberace with the chip lead would get 1.6 million, 1,600,249. The short stack, AJ would get $672,542. Shoes Are Dirty, $781,153. And then Marcouche 13, $866,718. And AJ as immediately says, okay, this isn't happening. Well, if one player says no, it means we play on.